So how will agriculture address the Rio+20 challenges? I'd like to now invite a chair for our high-level panel, Dr. Lindiwe Majele Sibanda, who is Chief Executive Officer and Head of Diplomatic Mission for FANRPAN, the Food, Agriculture and Natural Resources Policy Analysis Network. And I'd like to invite our 6 panelists up onto the raised stage, please.
Please, may we have the panelists come up front? Honorable Ministers here present, Excellencies, distinguished guests and participants, it's a pleasure to introduce to you an eminent team of panelists who are going to talk to us on this 4th Agriculture and Rural Development Day and Zero Landscape Day, as we've been told. The journey begins now. We have got here with us Honorable Minister Marcelo Bezerra Crivella, who is the Minister of Fisheries and Aquaculture here in Brazil. Welcome, Honorable Minister. We've got with us Honorable Kanayo Nwanze, who is the President of the International Fund for Agriculture Development, IFAD. Welcome, sir. We have got with us Honorable Roberto Rodrigues, who is Coordinator of the Getulio Vargas Foundation Agribusiness Center here in Brazil. He is the Special Ambassador for Cooperatives, and he's also former Minister of Agriculture, Livestock and Supply for Brazil. Welcome. We've got here Madame Jan McAlpine, who is Director of United Nations Forum on Forests Secretariat. We've got as well Ms. Grethe Dalane, who is the Regional Director of Latin America for Yara International. Welcome. And finally, we've got a farmer representative from Africa, from Southern Africa, Sir Dyborn Chibonga, Chief Executive of NASFAM. Please bear with us. We've got exactly 40 minutes to take you on a journey that cuts across government, international development, private sector and farmers. It's not going to be easy to keep you all engaged and to address all your questions. But the panel has promised to be real good. 1-minute responses to all the questions that I have for them. But already we've been inundated by questions because we've got this audience and a virtual audience that's already fired at us. The youth are on us and they already have sent a question through Twitter. We are in trouble. How do you make farming more appealing for the next generation of the youth? Question came in at 9 o'clock. They are impatient for answers. This is the Young Professionals Platform for Agricultural Research and Development. Who wants to have a go at the youth? They want their space. You are the elders to give them direction. Private sector, Yara, and go for them.
Can you hear me? Well, first of all, thank you for being here. It's a pleasure. And it's an interesting topic because I used to be heading HR in Yara. Excellent. And everybody was saying nobody wants to work for an old-fashioned industry like fertilizer. But what we have experienced is exactly what is happening here, is that agriculture suddenly on the top of the agenda because everybody sees that without having a sustainable agriculture, we don't have a sustainable future for anybody. So that is actually very appealing, and the fact that a company like ourselves actually play a very important role. And that, I think, is very easy for everybody to see that without also the private sector taking responsibility into this, there will be no future. And this is actually quite good when you go to university. You can actually work with some of the most important things the global has to face. And people actually think that is quite sexy.
Thank you very much. I would have loved to go through the whole lot because when we're talking, the question was farming, but I think it's broader than farming. It's the agricultural sector, and as we heard, we want a landscape approach. what is the space for the youth? I hope the panelists will give us sound bites as they respond to other issues. I would like to turn to you, Honorable Minister.
Well, it's a pleasure to be. É prazer estar com todos aqui nessa manhã.
It's a pleasure to be here today and to say that we, in Brazil, we have a concern, a serious concern, in terms of our responsibility to be, in a certain way, the farm of the world. Our potentials for the production of foodstuffs and the potential we have with the greatest reserves of water in the planet, to double of the second country, Russia, with 8.5 million cubed meters, and Russia has 4.5 million. This gives us a sense of great responsibility, and we have sought to undertake an integrated management between government agencies, companies, in the attempt to achieve inclusion on the part of our population, in the sense of manage this great wealth in the benefit of our people and for the benefit of the whole of humanity. It's so important for us that here in Rio, in my birthplace, we are here debating these important systems. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Minister. I note that you've already taken Madam Rachel Kite head-on. You're saying cross-sectoral approach is important. We cannot continue working in silos because we will not address the challenges that we face. Yes, it is happening in Brazil, but we've got development agencies. We've got IFAD here represented. Sir, you are the president of the International Development Agency with a purse of 4.6, not million, billion US dollars. What is your approach? How are you dealing with these issues of food security, energy, and forestry?
Thank you very much. I got 1 minute to respond. We're dealing with people, smallholder farmers, whose business model is very simple: food in their stomachs. So they remain subsistence. So what does IFAD do? It enables them to transform from that business model into one where they have food in their stomachs, food in the market. So they transform from subsistence farmers to farmers who make money. Mm-hmm. Now, to do that, they have to organize themselves to become more powerful. So, organization. Mm-hmm. They have to have access to financial services, rural finance. They have to have access to infrastructure, irrigation. They have to have support from government, policy. So they begin to transform themselves from subsistence farmers, and once they begin to invest in their businesses, they invest in their environment. Mm-hmm. Because unless the environment is sustainable, their business will not succeed. Yeah. So you're dealing with people, environment, social benefits, increased economic power. Now, all of this is something we're doing all over the world, here in Latin America, in Brazil, as well as in Asia and Africa and Northeast Africa. This is a very simple model: helping people to overcome poverty by investing in people, empowering them. And let me just conclude, because I have 5 seconds. Okay. The majority of our partners we're talking about are women. Women in rural areas. They're the most powerful investment we can ever have when we talk about sustainable development. Thank you.
Thank you. Talking about women, talking about food, but there is the component of forests. Jan, you are coordinating a component within the UN of 193 countries where you're dealing with forests, with special emphasis on the landscape approach. Can you unpack that for us? What is that all about, and how does it interface with what we've heard from IFAD, smallholder farmers, family farms here in Brazil, food security, and agriculture? what is the point of contact?
Thank you, Lindiwe. I don't think I could really improve on what Rachel Kite described about the landscape approach. She completely captured brilliantly the concepts of how we need to integrate this cross-sectoral interinstitutional approach. But the United Nations Forum on Forests a year ago, at the launch of the International Year of Forests, took a ministerial declaration, and their message to Rio+20 was we've got to change the way we're working. Mm-hmm. Governments, agencies, and UNFF is intergovernmental while it has society participating, youth, industry, women, and other major groups. It's still an intergovernmental institution, just like Rio+20 conference. And the problem is that government is structured very much in silos. We don't work together very well. We compete. I'm one of 6 children, and I can tell you that when there was a little bit of cake left, there was a lot of discussion about who got the cake. And I think we've seen since Rio much too much fighting over the cake. Yeah. And so now we have to figure out how do we work in forests, in agriculture, water, fisheries. How do we make that work in a different way so we're not competing, but we're cooperating?
Are we competing because the purse, the envelope is small, or are we competing by nature because we always want to come first?
Well, I do think you put your finger on something, because a lot of people in, say, the western part of the world take a lot more than they need. I mean, consumption and production patterns are in excess compared to, for example, Africa, where I spent my childhood. Yeah. And you're right, to some extent. But on the other hand, there are so many creative things that can be done. If you look at smallholders, both of agriculture but also small forest owners, there's some amazing things could be scaled up right away, yeah, without a huge amount of money.
Yeah. So it's not just about money, it's the will to work together and address the challenge. I would like to turn over to you, sir, Honorable Roberto Rodrigues. You've been involved in some interesting commissions: ethanol, biofuels. We've talked about food security, we've talked about forests. Can we really address this challenge of food insecurity with all this interest in terms of land grab for biofuel production, ethanol production? What is at stake here?
Well, first of all, what is in the blame is that I can't speak English. So may I speak in Portuguese, because my English is like Tarzan's English, more or less. So please forgive me, I speak in Portuguese. You promised,
Honorable, to speak to me in English. I've already had a Zulu panelist from Brazil.
Thank you so much. Bem, eu gostaria de...
I would like to say, firstly, the first question, sobre youth, was answered here very clearly. Youth, the youth, are being attracted to agriculture for 2 reasons. One, their idealism. Young people are idealistic, and they begin to understand that agriculture has an important role in the modern world overall, when it has to do with the preservation of the environment, added to world food production. So it's necessary to take advantage of to tap the idealism of the young people, to get involved in this role of the preservation. On the other hand, youth also needs cash, respect, and status, admiration. And agriculture needs to be more respected and more admired by the world as a whole. And this implies public policies which sustain this production process. This having been said, your question about some biofuels, I'm going to respond in a general sense. I believe that there's a great difference between the production of food and producing agroenergy. It's not just fuel, it's energy, electricity, the ethanol industry, the alcohol industry is growing with great strength all over the world. Food. Any country can produce food, sometimes with subsidies, but it can produce it. Agroenergy can only be produced where there's sun all year round, and sun all the year round, between the Tropic of Cancer and the Tropic of Capricorn, where Latin America, Africa, sub-Saharan Africa, and the poor regions of Asia. When the population is growing more in the world, and per capita income is growing ever more in these countries, it's in these countries where agroenergy can develop. This implies a change in global geopolitics. And this will change the equilibrium of the world, ensuring greater agroenergy supply and access to food. Based above all on sugarcane, which is not originally Brazilian but comes from Asia, but can be used in all of these regions with great consistency.
Thank you very much, Honourable Minister. So we've got hope. We can achieve food security. We can achieve energy security. We've got the resources. We've got the land, but we need to work together. Madam Rachel Cade, I hope you're convinced. The panelists are telling me that we can move towards Landscape Day. We are together here. I'd like to change gear now and talk about efficiency of using the resources that we have. We've talked a lot, we've heard a lot about sustainable intensification. I'd like to turn to Africa. Our farmers, you particularly in Malawi, your staple is maize. I've seen farmers producing 500 kilograms per hectare of maize. But with support and better technology, better quality seed, fertilizer, they've trebled that with good extension services as well. But treble to just 2 tons per hectare is not good enough. 3 tons is still not good enough. What does sustainable intensification mean for your farmers in Malawi? Is it achievable? How are you going to close the yield gap?
Thank you so much. I'd just like to take a second to thank the Brazilian government, WFO and GFARS, for making it possible for farmers to be represented in this forum. Indeed, Malawi has been able to achieve those yield increases because of support, because of good advisory services. Smallholder farmers working on their own cannot do it. They need to be mobilized, as IFAD has said. My own organization, NASFAM, works on the motto of the future belongs to the organized. Because we believe that if you mobilize and organize, you can best be able to access various services from various stakeholders. Africa has been using a lot of resources, but not intensively. It is now time to be able to upscale that. There's a lot of arable land in Africa, and the potential for yield increases in Africa is very huge. But we need to mobilize the farmers, and we need to have them participate in the advisory services. My own organization uses the farmer-to-farmer extension program, where farmers that are good at production, that are good at communication, are involved in mobilizing and being trained so that they in turn can train their fellow farmers using a principle of field schools, farmer field schools, where best practices are showcased. Other farmers can come and learn what is happening and be able to go back and apply that in their own fields. So with that sort of advisor services, farmers can learn that it is doable and they can do it. Indeed, Malawi has been able to increase its productivity from about 500, 600 kilograms per hectare to about 2 metric tons now. But I believe 4, 5 metric tons per hectare is achievable, given the right resources and the right advisor services. Thank you.
Excellent. I'm sure IFAD is excited. Farmers are saying mobilize and organize for you to close the yield gap. Thank you, Malawi, for that. You said fertilizer was part of your winning formula. I'd like to move on to Yara. And what does achieving greater nutrient use, efficiency in nutrient use mean to Yara?
if you see our logo there, it says knowledge grows. And knowledge is the key. And what we try to aim at is that the farmers use what they need. Not too much, not too little. So it's about having the right nutrient to the right crop at the right time and at the right place. Because we also know that overuse of fertilizer is a huge environmental problem. And it's a waste of money, it's a waste of resources, and it's bad for farmers, and it's good and it's bad for the environment. Too little nutrients in the soil is also bad for everybody because you get the lower yields and you get the lousy economy for the farmer. So for us, our salespeople are agronomists. We try to tailor-made fertilization programs to each crop and use our network to share the knowledge. We realize also that we have a huge challenge when it comes to farmers like what you represent. And for there we need to work in partnership, and we realize that we have a big role to play to be part of that cluster, to make sure that also that knowledge is coming to all the millions of farmers in places where you don't have commercial farming.
Excellent. So the fertilizer family is saying yes to sustainable intensification. 4R I learned from this engagements. The right fertilizer, the right place, the right time, and the right quantity. Thank you. So let's go on. Honorable Roberto Rodrigues. Brazil's achievements are amazing. But are you really dealing with issues to do with sustainable intensification? Or it's growth, growth, growth at the expense of the environment, at the expense of everything else that matters?
Well, Chair, thank you for this question. It's really interesting what I have done in Brazil the last 20 years. For instance, in the last 20 years, the cultivated area with grains in Brazil has increased 37%. The area cultivated, 37% in 20 years. And the production has increased 178%. And that's given to our main research enterprises in agriculture like Embrapa, which our president is here, Pedro Arraes, and our universities and other state organizations in research have been developing a lot of research in order to protect the growing agriculture in a sustainable way. Well, 37% of area, 178% of production means yields per hectare. But behind that number, there is something very, very, very fantastic. The current cultivated area with grains in Brazil is 52 million hectares. 52. If we had today the same yield per hectare that we had 20 years ago, we should need more 53 million hectares to have the same production we had this year. I mean, in other words, we have saved 53 million hectares of forest, of savanna, whatever. So it's not a promise. It's not a commitment. It's done. It's not a speech. We have done that in a sustainable way. It's the same of sugarcane, the same broiler. The production of a broiler in the last 20 years has increased more than 400%. Pork, more than 200%. Even cattle, more than 100%. Sugarcane, the same. So we have saved a lot of areas with our sustainable agriculture. And we are still going in the same direction, preserving more and more areas with high and good technology, sustainable technology.
Excellent.
Thank you.
That's exactly why we are here, and we saw it fitting to have the 4th Agriculture and Rural Development Day here in Brazil. We have a lot to learn. But talking about learning and knowledge, Yara touched on it. The opening remarks by World Bank and the Honorable Minister did make reference to the issue of scale. How do we go to scale to make sure that we address this challenge of poverty, we address this challenge of unsustainable intensification? Extension plays a major key. Honorable Minister, in your experience from Brazil, what is happening in relation to extension, particularly for aquaculture. We've touched forests, we've touched smallholder family farms, but can you share with us in the aquaculture sector what is happening?
De 2003 a 2011,
43 millions
apenas com
only with rural extension and technical assistance. Here in Brazil,
Estamos conscientes,
we are aware that
isso é uma visão do nosso
that's a vision from our former President Lula and now President Dilma. We are finding a new cycle for the protein production, a new cycle that is more economical, more sustainable, and more inclusive. We are talking about fish. In Brazil, because of our economic and cultural evolution, a great concentration of the land ownership in our history. So we still have many sectors of our agriculture economy. This happens still. But we have, when we distribute the public waters with extension, that's what you have asked me, rural extension with technical assistance, we can empower our populations that have not so many resources and give them the opportunity of be part of this new cycle, new production cycle of protein that we believe the fish will have a great impact to benefit Brazil and the world. And I say again, just to quote another question, that Brazil is in first place, the double of the second place concerning water, superficial water, for the production of fish. And the competitivity of human people. We in Brazil, we want to compete to be more sustainable. That's the great lesson we can give to, and to have, and then we can go together with the resources we have. Thank
Roberto,
you.
you want to top up on that. What's your experience with extension? And also, how can private sector step in to assist public sector? Experiences from Brazil?
Thank you, Chair. Well, we have a strong experience in cooperative movement. Yeah. The agricultural cooperatives have been dealing very extensively, mainly with small farmers, because 80% of our associated members of cooperatives are small farmers. And all this growing of productivity of yield per area in our country has been done mainly through the jumelage, this, comment on dit en français, partnership between research institutes and cooperative movement. We are spreading technology through cooperatives. It's very interesting what's done in this country.
Excellent. So partnerships are key. Private sector has a role, public sector has a role, and I'm sure it's the same in Africa as well. Twitter is on us. Stephanie Hansen has a question directed at IFAD. How can practitioners such as yourself ensure that farmers who are living on less than $1 a day are benefiting from agriculture investments? Say you're sitting on $4.6 billion US, and there are still farmers who are getting less than $1 a day. What are you doing with this money?
We're not sitting on $4.6 billion. Actually, those $4.6 billion is what is making the 500 million small farms and family farms across the world transforming themselves from subsistence to economically viable businesses. I think what the questioner has to understand is that until we realize that agriculture, farming is a profession, it's a very noble profession, and that farmers are the best business women and men. And when they begin to make economic benefits, when they move from $1 a day to $2 to $5 a day, when they can feed their children, they can send them to school, they can put a new roof on their house, they begin to make money. The youth should realize that unless you make money out of a business, it's not worth it. We have casted farming as a poor man's occupation. In Africa, in Asia, and parts of Latin America, it's a business that generates economic growth, wealth. And that's what our $4.6 billion is doing all over the world. Making farmers in West Gansu province of China go from $2 to $35 because what have they done? Manage the landscape. Growing wheat, barley, and maize on terraces. Growing trees, agroforestry, protecting the soil, using cow dung, manure, and human waste to produce biogas, and saving 7,500 hectares of forests. Women saving 60 days from going to fetch water and firewood. This is what we do. This is what we're doing in parts of the Sahel, regreening the Sahel with ICRAF, transforming the Sahel into a new green forest. How do we do it? By simple technologies from our research institutions. Planting pits, using mulch to increase their soil, the soil health, and being able to double their yields. All over the world, I think it's essential that we change our mindset and to see the potential of 5 million small farms as a major component in this transformational process of feeding 9 billion people come 2050.
Thank you very much. So your focus is the family farm. Your focus is the farmer who is still not earning enough for a decent livelihood. You want to lift them out of poverty because farming is a business, and IFAD wants to make sure that the farmers feed not just the family but the whole world. The way forward is smallholder farmers, family farms for IFAD. Yes. Thank you. Yara, there is your client base.
Sure.
What are you doing in terms of extension to complement what IFAD is trying to do on the ground?
I think it was Dyborn who said yesterday in a conference that it's all about organization. Because we have to admit today, we don't have access to those farmers. And because normally in our commercial channel, we will have our distributors, we will have our customers, and we can have farmers day, and we can convey our message on how to optimize the fertilization programs. But for these farmers, we don't have that organizations. So we have some small starting corporations in Africa in order to participate in growing the infrastructure and building the infrastructure for make this happening. But of course, there's a long, long way to go until we really reach out to all these small farmers. It needs to be organized, and for that we need a cooperation between the private sector and the public sector and all other good people who can help making that happen.
Thank you very much. I've not been fair to you, our audience. I've given a chance to the virtual world, and this is your time. Are there any burning questions? There are roving mics. I see 2 questions. I'll take 2 from each of the 4 sections that we have, and then the panelists will prepare to respond to you. Please stand. Please distribute the mics. We don't have much time so that we don't take time waiting for the questions. Please cut your questions 30 seconds. The answers are here.
Thank you very much. My name is Guilherme. I work at Humane Society International. I'm Brazilian, so I tend to be particularly excited about Brazil's achievements in all areas of sustainability. And I share some of our Honorable Minister's excitements with regards to our growth. But I'm not sure he should be so enthusiastic about the huge growth in our broiler and pork production. You see, the very factory farming that he mentions is responsible for that growth, and an economic growth indeed, but it's also responsible for a number of very important social and environmental damages that are very often overlooked. So most of our soy production, for example, is used for that very industrial animal production, which, as we know, feeds people at a very lower feed efficiency than if people actually ate less meat and more grains and vegetables. So I think, yeah, we need to think about that and about adopting more sustainable consumption patterns and incentivizing these more sustainable and less meat-dependent consumption patterns. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thanks. They're saying you're brave to ask that question, so there will be an answer for you. So your hand was up? Who's got a mic on this side? I'll move to the... Do you have a mic? It's a lady. Please give her a mic. It's a lady. No? All right. Sir. Whilst the mic is coming, I'll move over to this side. Yes, sir. Please introduce yourself quickly and 30 seconds for your question.
Well, my name is Luis Poroshinov. I work for the International Plant Nutrition Institute. It's not a question, it's just a comment. I started studying agronomy in 1981 in São Paulo State University. Since then, I got to know about the challenge we had to produce more and more and more food. Guess what? We did it. We are improving it. We have done, but we still have a challenge. But what bothers me is that every day people in big cities, they throw away a lot of food, sometimes half of what we produce. And I think we got to do something about this, you know, because it's not possible that we keep targeting producing more and more, which is okay, we should do it, but in many countries we have this problem of people not really valuing enough the product that we are producing. So this is my comment. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Let's deal with the issue of waste, sir.
My name's Miles Irving. I'm from England. Just listening to everything that's been said, it would be easy to get the impression that everybody involved in this...
Please raise the mic, sir, so we can hear you.
It would be easy to get the impression that everybody involved in this global agricultural project has two things in mind, the common good with regard to food provision and also preservation of ecosystems and biodiversity. And yet that seems to be ignoring the very obvious fact that there are very powerful forces at work within global agriculture who have neither of those concerns at heart, and they're simply concerned with one thing, and that is profit for shareholders. I'm just wondering why we're sort of ignoring the elephant in the room here.
Thank you. There are elephants in this room. Some people are extractive, wanting to make money at the expense of the environment. We'll deal with that. I'll just take one more. I'm sorry. Yeah, please stand and grab the mic.
Hi. Hello, Matthew Fielding from Siani here. You talk about the right fertilizer and the right land, but what about the right seeds? I think only 3 countries in Africa allow hybrid varieties that are resistant to drought and things like that. So that's a very interesting question.
Thank you. Right fertilizer goes with right seeds. Can we get a response? I'm afraid we have to be out of this stage in the next 5 minutes. And I'd like to give my panelists a minute each. They've all been trained to pack everything into 1 minute. And in that response, I'm interested in measurements. I'd like to hear from you. How are we going to deal with the post-Rio effect? Are we just making promises? What are the measurables that we are going to put in place to account for what we are promising to do? Progress towards sustainable agriculture. How are we going to be measured? Each one of you has been challenged. Private sector, public sector, development agency. Honorable Minister, your 1 minute starts now.
Eu acho que o Brasil já está fazendo isso. Nós temos sido um exemplo. Nosso ex-ministro da Agricultura citou.
Been an example. The numbers our minister has said, we are preserving the environment. In my area concerning fishery in the public waters, and we have more than 10.5 million of water. The reservoirs of our plants, we can use only 1% of these waters for fishing production. What is, if you compare, for instance, with the production of Asia, China, that's something extremely sustainable. That's not a promise. That's what we have been doing. Today in Brazil, we cannot have an activity in agriculture or fishery production or in the continental waters without authorization of very many agencies and organs. And we have to have partnerships with the universities. All this is through the law. So since 92 and now with Rio+20, we are aware that we need to go on and go better, but we have been doing our part to preserve the world and our resources for our children.
Thank you.
Muito obrigada.
IFAD.
Well, thank you very much. I will take 5 seconds to respond to the gentleman who spoke about seeds and say your statement is not correct. The CGIAR centers in Africa have been working there for the last 30 years, and they have high-yielding varieties of seeds as well as hybrids in many crops. And many farmers are doing better than they did 10 years ago. So get your facts straight. On the issue of measurements, I do hope that out of Rio, when we develop the sustainable development goals, that sustainable agriculture will feature, at least as targets. Otherwise, I think Rio, for me, would have failed. And for those of you who are here later on this morning, IFAD will be organizing a side event on a smallholder adaptation program, which we are starting at the second half of this year. And in that side event, we'll be sharing with you some results measurement framework that we are developing on how to measure progress in smallholder adaptation to climate change programs. And finally, FAO, IFAD, and WFP, these Rome-based agencies, are already working on measurements on how we can fit into measuring progress with the Sustainable Development Goals. And I hope that we'll come up with some results. Thank you.
Thank you. NASFAM farmers and world farmers.
Thank you. NASFAM farmers are involved with CGIAR centers to actually develop seed systems. It makes the certified seed accessible to smallholder farmers at cheaper cost, and you raise your yield up to 10 times. Yeah. So it is doable at a smallholder farmer level. In terms of what we should go from Rio, I think the idea that the growth should be only measured by GDP should be abandoned. We should find other ways of measuring growth and development instead of just using GDP. Finally, there was a question about attracting youth to stay in agriculture. I said before in another forum that the hand hoe actually is not attractive for youth. It is a drudgery, and they don't want to go into agriculture because of the hand hoe. But using conservation agriculture methods, technology can be brought to bear to produce from the same land without using a hand hoe. Therefore, in the next 5 years, we have to declare the hand hoe as a weapon of mass urbanization and ban it from agriculture, so that the youth can stay in the land and be able to grow without using the hand hoe. Thank you.
Forests.
Well, I feel like a tree in a very big empty plain, one tree on this panel. We haven't really talked about forests. We haven't talked about the fact because nobody's here who focuses extensively on forests. We've talked about agriculture today. And we've talked a bit about agroforestry, not very much. We should be talking about more. But one thing I want to share with you is that the numbers are rough, but 1.6 billion people depend on forests for their livelihoods, their food, their shelter, their medicine. The fact is, all of us depend on forests. So I have a challenge for you. First of all, Lindiwe, I'd like to say, I'm not sure how much time we should spend measuring. I think we can really act. We know a lot already about some of the issues, and we need to start scaling up now. And that's number one. And number two is at Landscape Day next year, I want to see northern agriculture ministers here talking about consumption production issues. I want to see forest ministries represented here and the South as well, and talk about how we change the way we interact, because that's what's missing. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yara, forgive me, I'll give you 30 seconds and 30 seconds. The time is the limited resource that we don't have. 30 seconds.
Very short. We are sure that we are part of the solution, because if you are going to grow more food without using more land, we need to be better to grow the food in the land available. So for that you need the right nutrients, and you also need the knowledge. What is very good and an exciting development for us is that the consumers start to talk about what are the value chain that you are providing, what are the carbon footprint that your products you grow is having, and that creates new openings also of corporations, because we start talking to the big food producers who want to know what kind of nutrients is actually in the plant, and that is very good, because then you can start to really talk about how to grow optimal food. And I think there's a lot of avenues that can be explored as long as people are starting to go out of their silos and start working together on this.
Excellent. Finally, Honorable Roberto.
Thank you, Chair. Well, I really need a little bit more than 30 minutes, because I want to make a proposal to save the world. Let's save the world. Let me tell you, I think that there are no leaders in the world, no more leaders, no more global leaders. And because of that, the world without direction. There is not a direction. We are losing direction. And everything is against democracy and peace because of that. So, what I propose, as an answer for your question, this meeting, Rio+20, must have a final decision. We should have a global project, a global program that could be sustainable food and energy security. Who can be against that? We should support that. And we, Brazil, are able to be a member of that. Maybe catalyze that issue. Even because we have already 7 million hectares of planted forests in my country. So everything can be done to save the world through that program. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, sir. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in thanking this panel, which has tried to unpack real-life experiences of what's happening on the ground. And one thing that's clear, landscape approach is the way to go. We are moving forward, and there's more to learn during the learning sessions and the afternoon sessions. I apologize for those who were not able to ask questions. Let's continue learning, and thank you very much.